Tonight, 9/11 first responders and their families are still fighting to make sure they keep getting compensated for their suffering. A leading advocate who himself was injured at Ground Zero joins us to discuss his battles with Congress for the money. Then the latest from Capitol Hill with ABC News political director Rick Klein. And also the case for impeachment. A leading journalist who covered Richard Nixon says the time is now for Democrats to start the proceedings. He is here to explain why. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in once again for Richard French. The 9/11 terror attacks happened nearly 18 years ago, but victims today are still suffering and dying. First responders who worked at Ground Zero are dealing with very high rates of cancer, respiratory illnesses, and more. But amazingly, the compensation fund set up to help them and their families is running out of money. Just today, a House committee voted to grant additional funding for the next 70 years. The full House is expected to vote on it shortly. This comes just a day after Jon Stewart testified before that panel and slammed Congress. Stewart has been a staunch advocate for the first responders for many years.
Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. Sick and dying, they brought themselves down here to speak to no one. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country, and it is a stain on this institution. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for those that aren't here, but you won't be. Because accountability doesn't appear to be something that occurs in this chamber. Your indifference costs these men and women their most valuable commodity, time. It's the one thing they're running out of. This should be flipped. This hearing should be flipped. These men and women should be up on that stage, and Congress should be down here answering their questions as to why this is so damn hard and takes so damn long. And the idea that you can only give them 5 more years of the VCF because you're not quite sure what's going to happen 5 years from now, well, I can tell you, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen 5 years from now. More of these men and women are going to get sick, and they are going to die.
A number of victims also told their stories to Congress yesterday, at least to the members who showed up for the hearing.
I should not be here with you, but you made me come. You made me come because I will not stand by and watch as my friends with cancer from 9/11, like me, are valued less than anyone else because of when they get sick, they die.
I am here today to ask Congress why they believe that my life is not worth the same as those that became sick before me, and how my life could be worth more than those that will most certainly become ill after me.
I'm personally certified with asthma, with GERD, with chronic rhinosinusitis, and with PTSD. So these serious illnesses that are emerging now are just the tip of the iceberg. If the VCF is allowed to close, a lot of my classmates will not find out they're sick in time to make a claim at all.
Our next guest was in the room yesterday. You saw him behind some of those speakers you just watched. His name is John Feal. John was a 9/11 first responder who is founder and president of the Feel Good Foundation. John, I actually want to start by asking you about the hours before the hearing yesterday. You've been doing this a long time. You've been coming on this program a long time. I'm wondering what was going through your mind as you packed your suitcase again, traveled to D.C. again, put your suit on again, made your way into the Capitol again, entered that hearing room again. I mean, it feels like the worst possible case of deja vu.
Well, one, thank you for having me. And, you know, it's numb for me. For those who I bring with me, who are on their first trip, their 5th trip, their 10th trip, their 100th trip, I want them to absorb it. And enjoy the moment, but also understand that they got a responsibility to advocate for tens of thousands of people that can't be there. But let me tell you that these trips take 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance to plan, to get a hotel with 20-something rooms, to make sure that everybody's fed, everybody takes their medication, that we stop on the 6, 7, 8-hour drive. There's a lot of planning involved, and I'm surrounded by really good people who care. And you know, the beauty about my team that I take to DC, they all got their VCF. They don't have to be there. They just believe in the mission, and they believe in my leadership, and I'm humbled for that. But let me take you to the morning of that hearing. It started with my guys waiting outside, and inside, and I waited outside for Jon Stewart, who I've been in contact with all week leading up to the hearing. And then I gave John a handwritten letter from me. And I haven't told anybody this, but that letter said, Dear John, my first official Dear John letter in 52 years on this planet. I miss my mother, and I love my mother dearly. I miss Ray Pfeiffer, and I love Ray Pfeiffer dearly. Please do not ever make me miss you, because I love you dearly as well. And you have a great responsibility today, your friend John. And he started crying, and we shared a good cry. And then that night before the Ray Pfeiffer golf outing, and John and Ray were really close. And I outbid everybody for Ray's jacket that was auctioned off, and I had it driven down to D.C. And that morning, I had everybody on my team sign Ray's jacket. And when we went inside, my team was waiting for John. And we gave John that jacket as a token of appreciation for being with us for 10 years. And to see John cry, and not just cry, I'm talking cry. I knew that I was going to get the John that I've been provoking all week, because John wanted to give a prepared statement. And when we got into the hearing room, I told John to put down his prepared statement. And I kept fueling his fire. And by the time it was for John to speak, because I was sitting in back of him, John put that speech down. And if John would have read his prepared statement, I wouldn't be doing an interview today, because what John did in those 5 minutes was historic. And he took our 18 years of pain and frustration and agony, and he delivered and articulated and painted a landscape in Jon Stewart fashion for America to see. And for that, I'm forever grateful to my dear friend.
Yeah, he's been a remarkable advocate and voice for this fight. And I'll talk more about him in just a second. But I'm curious, the other first responders from Ground Zero, you know so many of them, you represent so many of them. Are they frustrated by this process? Are they angry? And is that negatively impacting their health and their own recovery efforts?
Yeah, that's a rhetorical question, right? I mean, of course they're angry. And of course they're frustrated. You know, to see their frustration and their pain. You know, when we get on the Hill in the morning, a lot of these trips, and we've had 12 trips to D.C. in the last 6 months. We've had close to 400 meetings. You know, when they get a co-sponsor, their chest is out, their chin is up. But then when they go into a meeting and it's heated or contentious and they don't get their way, I can see them slouching and dejected. These men and women, uniform and non-uniform, they're sick, they're dying. Many of the people on my team will die. Many in the past teams have died. And it's more funerals that I'll go to. This is painful. There is no romance. There's no novelty to any of this. We're just a concerned group of Americans who are doing grassroots activism, who have been labeled guerrilla lobbyists, and we wear that with a badge. Tomorrow morning, I'll be going to Albany to get 3 bills passed. Elected officials in New York State and Washington, D.C. work for us. We're the taxpayers. The chairs that they sit in, the phones that they use, the computers that they use, they work for us. And all Americans across our great nation, they should have the same approach. And everybody's got a cause that they believe in, but a lot of them are afraid to take the fight to the steps of City Hall or the Capitol or Washington, D.C. If I can do it, then anybody can do it, because I got the IQ of something around room temperature.
So why do you think this keeps getting short-termed? Why hasn't Congress just stepped up and permanently funded this thing yet?
You keep asking me a lot of rhetorical questions here. You know, listen, I can't answer. I can't answer for Congress. It's usually because of tribal loyaltism. You know, it's a New York issue, or where are we going to find the money? It's not a New York issue. We already proved that. Somebody from every congressional district in our country was affected by the 3 terrorist sites. When Congress wants to find money, they find money. But history will show in 2010, 2015, and now, it's GOP leadership that always fights us. I mean, we got 305 plus co-sponsors in the House. That's unheard of. You know, Congress and the Senate have a chance to take our worst day, our worst weeks and months, and our worst 18 years and make it their finest hour and come together and truly make this a bipartisan issue and come together as Americans. Put aside that you're a Republican or a Democrat and be an American, be a patriot. Know what it is to be a patriot, like the men and women that I bring to D.C. The men and women that get in their cars, drive down 95 with their oxygen tanks and their 30 medications a day and their wheelchairs, and learn something from them because they're class acts. They truly are our nation's greatest resources. And then we have to go to battle with people that do not want to care or listen to us until we force them to. And, you know, listen, we always come in peace until you make it that we can't come in peace anymore. I don't want Congress to like me. I don't want the Senate to like me. But they're going to respect the Feel Good Foundation and the 9/11 community because we won the popular vote over them, and we're going to get our way when this is said and done, and we're going to win. And it's not going to be a pretty win, and it's not going to be a win that we all jump up and down and hug each other. It's going to be a win to help those who are sick and dying or have died in their families to offset that financial burden. We got the 75 years of free health care. Now we want the 75 years of compensation. And it's not just for 9/11 responders. We'll all be dead by then. But there were 12 schools in Lower Manhattan. Some of those kids were 4 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old. And those kids deserve what 9/11 responders deserve. And I'll tell you why. Because they were lied to by the federal government, just like we were. They were forced to go back to school when Rudy Giuliani, Chrissy Todd Whitman, and everybody else in the White House knew air wasn't safe to breathe and the water wasn't safe to drink. We were lied to, and we're fighting those who lied to us for them to help us. I'm a common sense thinking type of guy. It doesn't hold water with me.
John Feal, nothing more to add except good luck, and I really mean that in every possible sense of the word. Thank you.
And thank you for us to continue and tell our story. That means a lot. And you know, we're at the 50-yard line, but we got a lot more work to do. So keep telling our story, please.
We shall. Up next here on RFL, we look at the politics of the 9/11 compensation bill, plus the latest on the battle over the Mueller report with ABC News political director Rick Klein.